I think my aha moment is probably going to be December 2013 in Las Vegas. There was a Bitcoin conference, maybe with like 100 something people, a very small conference. So I come to learn about Bitcoin in mid 2013. So, and I've been reading about the white paper, downloaded the wallet, playing with it. There's much less material back then than there is now. I understood the technology, and I think, well, in my work, but we need a community behind it. So that's why I went to a conference in December 2013, and at the time, the news headlines were all Silk Road, drug lords using Bitcoin, etc. But when you enter the conference, Vitalik was there, Matt Rozek was there. It was a bunch of geeks, a bunch of kids, the programmers, the developers, the bunch of really really nice people. And then after that conference, I said, if this is a community that's behind it, I can do it. So that's why after that conference, I quit my job, started looking for a new job in the crypto industry, the Bitcoin industry back then. And then I sold my apartment and converted that into Bitcoin. So that's kind of my aha moment back then. Risk is different for different people. So back then, I figured, look, if this thing doesn't work, Bitcoin goes to zero. I would find another job very quickly. I can always find another job, and the chance of Bitcoin going to zero is zero. Bitcoin is not like Bitcoin is a technology that's evolving. So we've seen that with the internet. There can be ups and downs with the companies performing well, not well, but the internet itself is growing. So technologies don't go away. Big technologies like Bitcoin, internet, the concept in our heads. If we shut down Bitcoin, if we shut down internet today, there will be internet too, because we know how to do it now. Yep. So this thing will not disappear. So once I figured that out, I was all in. So the risk would be like any company, etc., or any project I was involved with have some risks. I can always get a different job. Put this down. I have it in a blog post. It's not very well written. I'm still working on version 2. So I had the privilege and the honor to meet with Ray Dalio maybe about 8 months ago. And I've met him over like 4 or 5 times over the last 8-9 months. And when I first met him, before I first met him, I read his books about principles. But I was trying to write down my own principles. It was super difficult. It was very, very difficult to generalize your principles so that they handle special cases, etc. But after I met him, he gave me a tip that made me able to write them down. So that 2-pager that I had before I met him became a 20-pager. And then so he was actually my inspiration and kind of coach helping me to write down my principles. It's a 20-page document now. It's on the Binance blog. If you search for CZ principles, you'll find it. I'm actually rewriting the second version. The content are mostly the same. There's some additions, and but I'm restructuring the document so that it's a simpler read. So very simple things like there's simple things like always do the right thing, always be ethical. There's some controversial things like never sign exclusive contracts, never enter into exclusive agreements. There's some weaknesses too. I don't give compliments that much. It's more stick than carrot. And many people give me feedback that might not be the best approach or the best principle. It's not a principle per se. It's just who I am. So I'm trying to improve on some of those things as well. To be very frank, I've been less involved on the enterprise side. I've been much more involved on the retail side. So to be very frank, I'm probably not the expert on the enterprise adoption. There are many other companies like yourselves who focus on this area. For me, some of the stronger use cases like global fundraising using blockchain. Entrepreneurs can raise money much easier. Who wouldn't want this ability in their country so that their entrepreneurs can raise money globally in a matter of days? That's the most direct form of foreign direct investment. Every country wants FDI. So this is one. And cross-border remittances, many countries rely on this. And today the cost is super high. This is why blockchains shine when they go cross-borders. The fee is very low. It's instantaneous. It's safe. It's secure. So there's many of these little use cases. Not little. There's many of these use cases that are not very strong in that's not very well handled by traditional financial services.
Right.
So I think quite a lot of these use cases are very interesting. And on the enterprise side, I don't know too well. But on specific projects, I have a rule not to do that.
That's fine.
I get into I get all kind of accusations of potential manipulation, whatever. But I think every use case is important. The market will determine which ones are more important than others by adoption, right? So if you're working on a use case that addresses a key concern, then you will see more usage of your product. So I think layer ones are really important. Layer ones within enterprises, I think that's got to be very important. Like that's the number of transactions may be lower, but the volume should be much higher. If they're done if they're fully deployed compared to the traditional sort of transactions. So I think and layer twos are important. Wallets are important. Even liquidity providers are important. Yeah. So I think all of those use cases are super important. Yeah. So I think, look, you guys have been building for a long time. You guys been in the industry for a while, and to continue to build. I think we all contribute something into the ecosystem. I see you. Yeah. And so I think as an exchange, we're the liquidity provider. We're the price discovery market mechanism. So we can help projects that gain traction, and enterprises, retail guys can all use us. So that's what an exchange that's the main function of an exchange. But I think also Binance helps many projects to grow in the ecosystem. We invest, we do incubations, we help them to do adoption. So we also work with governments on policies, etc. So there's many ways we can try to help push adoption. And I think enterprise use is very important. The enterprise adoption curve will typically be a little bit slower than retail, but when the enterprise adopts something, they never stop. So when a company uses a system, they just keep using it. So the stickiness is much stronger, and they will be less price sensitive. They won't be tracking price up and downs, etc. So I think those things are hugely important. Yeah. Both public blockchains and private blockchains are good. So everything have some risks. So we got to address that. But the blockchain themselves are fine. The blockchain themselves are rarely the problem. So if different enterprises have different requirements, usually on transaction volume or speed or reliability or cost, and also there's an element of privacy. Many of the enterprise data you may not want to put on a public blockchain, or you can put it out in encrypted fashion if that suits your need. So there are many different kind of different considerations to think about. Again, so it's really use case dependent, and I would highly encourage that if you can use a public blockchain, use a public blockchain because that's the most open, that's the most readily available, and it's highly interoperable as well. It's easier for other people to use it. But if the public blockchains don't serve the need, don't meet the need, then by all means use an enterprise blockchain. Yeah. Question. So in any new industry, you will see consolidation of traditional layers. So before, as a retail user or as any trader, you have to get a broker, submit your orders to the broker. The broker then sends your order to an exchange. The broker, in theory, should provide you some value-added services like advices, risk management, other things, but they also charge a fee. So the more layers you have in that process, the higher the fee. And if you're doing a startup, then you're usually raising money from a VC, and then you do round A, B, C, D, however many rounds, and then you go for a listing. You try to go for an IPO, and then the exchange and the clearing house is separate. So you have all these layers. Each layer increases cost and also introduces latency. So now the technology allows us to say, look, we service 120, 130 million users globally. And they come directly to the exchange, and they can subscribe directly to an ICO or IEO or Launchpad. And so all of these middle layers are being consolidated. So this is actually good for the user. It's actually very stressful on the exchange from a technology, from operations point of view, but it really saves the cost for the users. But there could be a few factors that may cause the industry to move in different ways. Number one is regulation, right? So now I think many people want to have asset segregation from the exchange. So we're looking at custody solutions where the custody of the assets are separate from the trading engine. That's okay too. Again, that introduces some latencies and potentially some costs. And then there are other things like, regulations could say, hey, you have to have separate processes for different things. So there's many forces at play, but from a technology evolution and from a saving cost for users, from the most economic point of view, yes, consolidation is definitely happening. I think the simplest thing is this is just a new technology for money, right? And the technology doesn't go away. So if we backtrack a bit, if we think about the internet, the internet was just a new technology for transferring information. That's all it is. It's just TCP/IP packets over the wire or over the air. And with that simple technology, we built this entire ecosystem out of it. There's social media, there's search, there's e-commerce, there's many things. We can't even really imagine the world without internet now. But that just comes from the technology to transfer information. And blockchain is a new technology to transfer value. So if internet deals with information, now we're dealing with money. This new technology is going to have much bigger impact than that technology that deals with money or with information. So I think the impacts are going to be quite big. And it's actually because the impacts are so big, we actually need to proceed slowly and carefully and steadily so that we don't cause big disruptions. We can have small iterations, but big disruptions are bad. So so that's how I view it, how I conceptualize it. So it's not about any single coin. It's not about any single blockchain. It's not about any single exchange. It's the fundamental technology that's being evolved, and it will continue to evolve because there's hundreds of millions of people looking at this industry right now, and you cannot erase the concept from people's heads. You'll just have to continue to evolve. Right. So I'm very confident about the future prospects of blockchain technologies.